All right, let's talk about some interesting stats from last season and how they're going to impact the team moving forward. Mahomes and Kelce having fun at this golf tournament. Orlando Brown Jr. trade talks not yet heating up, and go over why the success of the Chiefs special teams unit is more important than the hype of Justyn Ross. But first, how about those? What's up, guys? My name is Cole, aka the magnificent mahogany-bearded man-child of the Chiefs Kingdom's knowledge banks, or sometimes simply known as the red-beard roving renegade, and I do daily news about the Chiefs and the NFL overall, so I'm gonna need you to sub. If you're new around these parts of Chiefs Kingdom, hit that like button. If Kansas City's barbecue is hands down better than St. Louis's barbecue, and let's get into this little video, starting off with some Chiefs birthday shoutouts, because there have been quite a few recently, and those players were Tershawn Wharton on June 25th, Creed Humphrey on June 28th. I've shouted that one out already, but there you go again, Creed. Chad Henne was on July 2nd, Chris Jones July 3rd, and Corey Coleman was on July 6th. So happy freaking birthday to all, and to all a good morning, because I've been up since 3:55 a.m., but hopefully these guys were all celebrated like the kings they are here in the kingdom. Now, I'd like to glance at a few clips of some of these players sharing some behind the scenes stuff and putting in that W-O-R-K. Justin Reed is up first. He shared a little BTS video of him suited up in red and gold and saying, "No, no, no, you cannot step into my area without getting absolutely demolished." And then he proceeded to share this short video of him absolutely demolishing people on repeat out there on the football field, and has one word to say as he shares this post, and that word is physical. Juan Thornhill showed some clips of him training yesterday as well, and I'll tell you what, this man was working in the sand with socks on, with a band on his legs, catching ping pong balls or something like that, and doing all kinds of wild stuff. He's definitely out there grinding in the heat and wearing socks. I said that already, but why is he wearing socks? I don't really know. And then here's some footage of CEH that surfaced as well of him getting some work in at the Elite Football Academy in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And the guy who shared some of this footage says CEH is a master at work, putting the whole league on notice, and says that Clyde's work ethic is unmatched. Well, I hope he puts the entire league on notice. I would love to see it this season. Yes, please, and freaking thank you. And then here's a quick clip of George Karlaftis almost throwing a medicine ball right through the actual wall.
Nice, Paul.
All right, enough violence. Let's talk about golf for a moment, the opposite of violence, because Mahomes and Kelce seem to have a grand old time at this AC championship golf tournament at Edgewood. They kicked it with Steph Curry, Justin Timberlake, had fun pumping the crowd up at times. Random, but Mahomes made a nice three-pointer. Then on hole 18 or something like that, made a nice putt. And Kelce did a few wild things worth mentioning as well. First, Travis shows off the fact that if Harrison Butker and Justin Reed both go down, he could kick a field goal if he absolutely had to. I'm honestly not sure if that kick was even good, but it was a fun moment nonetheless. Second, Kelce also sunk like a 30-foot putt or something like that and went absolutely wild over it. They almost squashed Justin Timberlake. And apparently, though, you are not supposed to do that kind of stuff on the green. I mean, people were literally crying real tears about it in the comment section, and I do wish them well, and I will pray that their mental health will be okay over this event, because they seem to really care about that cute green little patch of grass. Also to note, Mahomes accidentally threw his putter into the water during this celebration, so rest in peace to Pat's putter, that poor piece of putting product. And then, apparently Kelce was the AC Championship Karaoke champion, which is a nice hidden talent to have at parties, I suppose, so that's nice. And finally, Kelce himself could be seen on stage at a Chainsmokers concert that evening, so Travis Kelce keeps winning, except for possibly getting sued by the green grass lovers on social media. And just want to note this, they did not do very well. Kelce was like 45th, and Mahomes was like 52nd or something like that, but I do not care if they win out on the golf course. All I care about is that they get a dub on the football field when it really matters. And speaking of football, let's dig into some more football news right after this.
Scared, Dad?
Do you trust me, son?
Yes.
Come on, son. Rule number 1, never trust anybody.
So sorry, son, Derek Carr, but you can never really trust anybody these days, not even your father, Patrick Mahomes. Okay, something I found interesting yesterday is that an article on NFL.com dropped that mentions Orlando Brown Jr.'s contract situation, and I found something perhaps slightly not good or a little concerning about the report. We'll just put it that way. They say this: Brown, who the Chiefs acquired via trade with the Baltimore Ravens ahead of last season, has yet to sign his franchise tag, and there hasn't been any talks lately. But Garofalo expects conversations to heat up early next week to see if a long-term pact can get done. Okay, so they just said that Brown and his representation, his new little rookie agent, and the Chiefs have not yet been in discussion about his contract. Huh? The deadline is literally in 7 days, so I'm a little bit confused by that. I mean, Orlando Brown's agent is literally greener in the game than the poor grass that Travis Kelce stomped his little feet on, and Orlando wants to be paid an absolute stadium full of gold coins. So you would think the talks would have at least begun by now, but hey, maybe I'm reading a bit too much into this and it's not as complex of a situation as we think it would be. I would like to say a deal still gets done. So I'd imagine, just like Garofalo says in his article here, conversations are going to heat up early this week, hopefully Monday, Tuesday at the latest, because that would only be 4 to 5 days to get a deal done. So chop, freaking chop, and let's make something happen.
Let's go, hurry up, come on. Chop, chop.
Okay, let's look at some interesting stats from the Chiefs last season that were dug up by Ron Kopp Jr. on Arrowhead Pride yesterday, because some of these I found very interesting and definitely worth discussing. First is this: the Chiefs offense finished first in points per drive, yards per drive, drive scoring percentage, and third down conversion rate. So even though Mahomes regressed, had been figured out, was washed, all that fun stuff, the Chiefs still led the league in first down conversions with 419 and still had the highest third down conversion rate, 52.2%, which was 5 points higher than any other team, I might add. The second interesting stat on this article is in weeks 9 through 18, Chris Jones created pressure on 17% of his pass rushing snaps, which was the third highest pressure rate in the league during that time, only behind TJ Watt and Rashawn Gary. I like his last name, Gary. This is worth noting because week 9 is when Melvin Ingram joined the ranks of the Chiefs and Chris Jones moved from the outside back to the inside where he belongs, pretty much finishing that weird experiment of him playing on the edge. So that's a good sign overall. And while the unit did finish 5th in the NFL in team pressure rate, it earned the 4th fewest sacks last season. We saw that happen many times in games, with at least 2 happening in the AFC Championship game against the Bengals, which was definitely frustrating to watch Chris Jones run around and try to tackle Joe Burrow, and even more frustrating to Chris Jones himself, who puts the loss partly on his own shoulders for not being able to get to Burrow. The third stat listed here is one to keep our pupils on because it has to do with CEH basically not being used at all in third down situations. Well, almost not at all. He had 2 carries and 2 catches on third downs last season, so 2% of his total touches happened on third down in 2021, a 4% decline from the 2020 season, in case you were wanting to know that one. This stat means, of course, that they did not like to use CEH on third downs. Instead, they preferred to use Darrell Williams and Jerick McKinnon. And we all know that they just signed McKinnon back to the squad. So this makes it even more critical for CEH to prove himself this upcoming season, or this man may find himself traded or gone, if I'm going to be honest. The fourth stat on this article is a wee bit sad, and it's this: the Chiefs defense allowed the highest yards per possession and second most yards per play. Basically, a horrible couple of stats to have, and they just keep going because they were ranked second worst in rushing yards per attempt and 4th worst in net passing yards per attempt. I mean, this is nasty, bottom of the barrel type of stuff, but I guess the good news is this: it's only up from here, right? I mean, if you're already at the bottom, improving a little bit can't be that hard, can it? We will certainly find out soon now, won't we? In theory, the defense is upgraded overall, but we will have to see how they operate without key players, vets in the game like Charvarius Ward and Tyrann Mathieu. The last stat listed here is a big one, kind of the crux of today's video, and it's this: players with 42% of 2021 special team snaps. Let me read that again. Players with 42% of 2021 special team snaps will not return in 2022, including the top 4 players. I mentioned this briefly yesterday, but didn't really discuss it. It's these players: safety Armani Watts, wide receiver Marcus Kemp, And linebackers Dorian O'Daniel and Ben Neiman are all bye-bye. And all of these players led the unit in special team snaps last season. Other key players that also played special team snaps are gone as well. Players such as Dan Sorensen, cornerback Mike Hughes, and wide receiver Byron Pringle. So that's 2 receivers that played significant special team snaps, or at least one, Marcus Kemp, that played a boatload of special team snaps. So obviously, lots of holes to fill on the third phase of the game, special teams, and this is why I think they will look for wide receivers 5 and 6 to also be able to play some special teams. Many of you seemed a little upset at the fact that I said I'm not sure what the Chiefs are going to do with Justyn Ross at the moment, whether he's stashed on IR, PUP list, or as a smart fellow in the comments pointed out to me yesterday, the NFI list. I'm just not sure exactly how that list works after reading it, but basically, Justyn Ross is a big unknown, a big question mark right now. So it's hard to predict what they're going to do with them when I have no idea. But you still got guys like this man, Damian Arnall, who literally says, F special teams. Justyn Ross will make the roster. Screw Josh Gordon and all those other wide receivers. Justyn is going to make it. And to be clear, I'm not sure if he was actually that angry, but that is how I read his little message. Well, I got a message for you, bud. I think your bias is showing here just a little bit. How can you basically say, who cares about special teams? Like it doesn't even matter when we have this many players gone that used to play special teams. I'm going to leave you alone, but let me first say this. I'm very glad that you are not in charge of building the roster. But to be fair, neither am I in charge, and the coaches are ultimately going to decide, not you and not me. I just think Justyn Ross is going to get stashed away this season, and wide receiver 5 and 6 will be those who have multiple uses, such as uses on special teams. Byron Pringle and Marcus Kemp are gone, who played a lot of special teams. Hello. And this is worth mentioning. A lot of receivers are potentially gone next season. You got McCole on his contract year. MVS's contract is structured in a way that he could also be gone with minimal loss by the Chiefs. And Juju himself is on a 1-year deal. So I think some of these other guys like Justyn Ross will have opportunities to step up and be great, especially after sitting within the system, learning the ropes, the playbook, all that good stuff for a year or so. So I think that's what they might do with Justyn Ross. Stash away this little treasure and build him up, keep him safe, and then let him loose on the league next year. But again, I could be wrong. I'm not out here claiming to be God with the ability to see into the future. I'm just trying to be realistic in my assessment and not let the hype of Justyn Ross guide my predictions. If I'm wrong, that's fine, because that means the coaches made the decision they thought was best. I just want the Chiefs to win freaking games and get another Super Bowl, ring, trophy, all that good stuff, no matter what it takes or what it looks like or who starts and who doesn't. And I'm sure most of you all agree as well, right? I mean, let me know in the comments down below if I'm way off here, that the success of the Chiefs special teams unit is more important than the hype of Justyn Ross, than the hype of one player, simply because we really want him to be on the roster and force him on there. Feel free to yell at me, be honest, let me know. And then let me know what you think they're going to do with Justyn Ross. Do you agree with my assessment there of stashing him and building him up and then unleashing him next year when a lot of these receivers are gone? Let me know in the freaking comments and we'll fight about it down there. And from here, I want to look at some super thanks comments from yesterday because there were a few of them. Clark Duncan sent over a $5 super thanks and says a bunch in this comment. Chiefs Bronc thinks Noah Gray will train to equal Kelce in the next 2 years. Well, I honestly doubt that, but one can dream. He then says, we need to go and get Bradley Chubb, the outside linebacker from Denver, then predicts the Super Bowl will be Rams and Chiefs with Mahomes getting the MVP. Well, I really like that part a whole lot. And lastly, he says Joe's KC and Arthur Bryant's is the best on real Kansas City barbecue. So there you have it. Words from Clark Duncan himself. Let's Go Chiefs dropped a quick $2 super thanks. So shout out to you. Justin The Way dropped a $10 bomb and says, don't shout me out, but you get a shout out anyway because you're a freaking legend. And then Mark Wahlberg's cousin is back, Eric Wahlberg, with a $10 super thanks of his own and calls me an upside down troll doll head legend, which is amazing. I appreciate that compliment and the nickname. He then thinks the Chiefs will do whatever they can to keep Justyn Ross. And yeah, I agree. I think he's a treasure. I think they keep him, just not sure if he will have an immediate impact this year on the roster. That's all. And then Eric goes wild here And says this about my fake sponsor from yesterday, Manscaped. Also, can never get enough Manscaped. I like to strip down, take my shaver, straddle a pile of newspapers, and yell, "Let's ride."
Let's ride.
And I'm just going to move right along here without much added commentary because that was enough of a description for me to fear for my life. Make sure to leave a bearded comment or a super thanks to potentially be featured in an upcoming vid. Sub for more freaking awesome videos like this. And check out this video here, boop, boop, from Chiefs Concerns, where they discuss the idea of adding Carlos Dunlap and Robert Quinn to the defense. And until next time, let's go. Let's freaking go. How about those?